Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Orochimaru was given the responsibility of watching over Naruto X Hinata Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this and comment for next part. And now let's start the fanfic. But, I've only recovered so much. The doctors don't think I have much longer anyway. The Hyuga matriarch confessed. Please sir, let me see my daughter one more time. Take me to her. Never mind my health. Alright, tell whoever you must you're going out of town to see a talented medic to treat you, and pack up any way you want with you. Oh, and bring the infant too. You'll understand if I prefer not leaving her with potential child abusers. Jiraiya told her, to which she agreed. A few minutes later Hiashi and the other Hyuga were informed of her going on medic leave with Jiraiya's assistance. They were against the new heiress going along, but Hitomi argued that she would still be nursing the baby so this was for the best. Without further argument, and the approval of the Hokage, Jiraiya was on his way back to Land of Rice Paddies with two Hyugas, riding Gamabunta to get there quicker. When Jiraiya showed up that night he was greeted by Tsunade and Orochimaru. Gamabunta dispelled after his riders were on the ground. Suheim, this woman needs medical care now. She's the Hyuga girl's mother. But Hinata-chan said she was dead. Orochimaru said, not quite, but I sure feel like it some days. Hitomi answered wearily. Tsunade did a quick diagnostic jutsu. Looks like someone gave you a slow-acting poison to kill you. When did this start? She didn't wait for an answer before she got started on the anti-venom jutsu best for this. I think after I gave birth to my second daughter Hanabi. Hitomi answered, feeling a sense of calm from the jutsu. Somebody must have wanted you dead but not immediately. Why? I haven't the foggiest. But this should clear things up. Just try not to stay active so soon. Tsunade told her. Is my daughter Hinata here? Can I see her please? Hitomi pleaded. I'll take you to her. Orochimaru told her, leading her inside the palace. A teary reunion between mother and daughter, both thought deceased by the other, followed and was followed by a teary explanation of the physical harm forced onto said daughter by other relatives. Said mother decided not to return to Konoha and would later be considered dead by natural causes in the Hyuga records, with Hanabi suffering SIDS at same time. In time the new hidden village was completed and ready to be inhabited. Orochimaru, who had been declared the ruler of the village, stood on an alcove on a central tower to address the new citizens of the village, both shinobi and civilians mixed together. Welcome everyone to this new shinobi village. I know we may not seem like much now, but we will soon become a respected force in the ninja world. Why? Because we'll have the elements of surprise and mystery better than any other. And because I'm sure this population will band together to help the rest rather than look for reasons to ostracize each other. Almost every head in the crowd nodded. So let us strive to be a grand village rather than a barbaric one, which I'm sure some of you will agree some of the major hidden villages have started becoming. Again some people nodded. Today a new village has been born. From here on out, this village's name will be Otogakure, the Hidden Sound Village. The name was based on a set of cannons positioned at each of the gates around the village that fired off huge chakra-powered sound attacks at intruders. A fifth one was on top of the cage tower and could be fired in any direction if need be. Everyone cheered, and hailed Orochimaru as the Shadaime Otokage. After the first day being in the new village called Oto, the three Sannin gathered together with the kids in their care along with Hinata's mother. Orochimaru started the topic of discussion. Okay, we now have a place to call home and live safely. So now the issue is who lives with who and where. My daughters are staying with me. Hitomi claimed assertively, putting her arms around Hinata and Hanabi to emphasize her point. Thanks to Tsunade's help she was as healthy as a horse when by now she would have died for real. I don't think anyone was going to contest that. However, I do recommend that if you're going to live here rather than Konoha, that you change your name so we can avoid any problems. Jiraiya told her. Hitomi nodded. Sounds fair. I think we'll go with the name Hibiki, in honor of this new village. Hibiki means sound, echo. Orochimaru smiled. I think that's quite an appropriate choice. But won't people see your connection to the Hyugas just by looking at your eyes? I can wear contact lenses to cover that up, and so can my daughters when they're old enough. And maybe we can modify the Jukin enough so that others won't connect us that way either. Sounds good. Now, as for the other kids, I think we should. Tsunade suggested. Me and Otudo will stay with Jisun then. Anko stated, cutting off the slug Sanin before she could say otherwise. Now little girl. Jiraiya started. Anko gave him an angry look. No old man. I know you and her are Naruto-chan's grandparents, but you two were more interested in books and beer to notice him. Now you come here and want to act like it never happened. No way. My brother is staying with those I know will care for him. Orochimaru smiled at how fierce this child could be in the face of two Sanin. Anko-chan, you're going to be quite a force when you're older. He then cleared his throat to catch her attention. Actually, Anko-chan, what my teammates were going to say is we all reside here in this tower. That way all you kids can be together and we all can watch over you. No fair splitting you guys up, is it? Or giving you random people to call parents now. Anko's temper deflated. Yes, Jisun. This will also help us keep an eye on those marks you all have now. Orochimaru added. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Hitomi had been more than appalled to hear about that little incident. Jiraiya tried to seal it up but couldn't undo it for reasons that escaped him. It was as if it was only part seal, part something else entirely. Tsunade checked as well and her medic ninjutsu did nothing to improve it. If anything, her jutsus meant to calm it only aggravated it instead. What about Hinata? Hitomi asked, since her oldest child had the curse mark too. There's enough room for the three of you as well. The carpenters sensed several people might reside in this tower, so there's enough room here for 24. Orochimaru answered. You really want to stay here? Just like that? Kabuto curiously asked. Hitomi nodded. You heard what Hinata went through. How could I make her go back to that? Or Hanabi either to maybe be their new target? Better I stay here and let them think I'm dead or something, even my husband. He wouldn't be able to hide this secret from the Hyuga Council. Yay. Hinata-chan staying with us. Naruto cutely cheered, making the adults and the mentioned girl grin. Later that night while everyone was asleep, Jiraiya was doing a quick check on Naruto's seal. Just a precaution to make sure no one had done any tampering with it without Orochimaru's knowledge. It was unlikely, but the Snake Sanin wasn't as good with seals as the Toad Sanin and he couldn't have watched Naruto 24/7 for 3 years. So Orochimaru let him check it out, but he, Tsunade, and Anko insisted on sticking around and watching, if nothing but to satisfy their own curiosity and protective sides. Jiraiya checked Naruto's sedated body over like a surgeon might. He noticed the curse mark darken and try to spread in the meantime, so he put a suppressor seal on it for the meantime. Hopefully it would last. But when he took a direct look at the seal for the Kyuubi, Jiraiya's vision darkened for a moment. When he could see again, he saw himself in front of a giant set of cage doors standing in shallow water. He noticed a piece of paper with the kanji for seal on it on the cage, and knew exactly where he was. Minato, did you plan this? Or am I here by accident? The pervy sage asked himself. The sound of breathing and groaning made him stop, and the sight of a large red eye slowly opening made him freeze. Who are you? A tired but strong voice asked him. Jiraiya was half tempted to give his trademark introduction, but wisely thought the better of it. I'm just checking up on the boy. I never expected to come across you. The Kyuubi shut its eye again and slowly reopened it, but not as much this time. If you're here to hurt the kid, you just made a big mistake. The fox growled, almost protectively. I'm here to help him. The last thing I want to do is hurt him. Kyuubi looked at him like it was studying him, and it appeared more alert and awake this time. How do you intend to help him? Since I'm in him, I'd be affected, so I have the right to know. I just wanted to make sure the seal hasn't been tampered with or weakened in any way. Some idiots in Konoha could have easily done that if they did anything to him without truly thinking it through. Jiraiya explained. The Kyuubi groaned, or maybe yawned, it was hard to tell here. Nothing like that I've seen. From what I recall, the seal was the only part of him those bastards and bitches left alone. Jiraiya blinked in surprise. From what you recall, I saw everything through his eyes. I can't do anything except heal him though, but only so much or he might get poisoned from my chakra. Otherwise I'd have gotten rid of that new mark myself. That one's a bit of a nuisance. From what I can tell, it's some sort of false Kekkei Genkai, giving him a unique ability but it can't be passed down to his own kits. By the way, go easy on the sedatives, they're only making it worse for him. How? Jiraiya asked. I'm no expert like that vixen you're with, but the man who gave the kit that Mark said being close to death would trigger a second stage for that Mark. I think being heavily sedated for a time might be just as effective for it. Jiraiya thought this over. I'll take your word for it, since that thing is very confusing to me. I've been trying to understand it since the kid and the others got it. I believe it's some sort of secondary chakra source that first awakens in a dangerous situation. Maybe activating an already present Kekkei Genkai will trigger it too, but I'm not sure. Does kind of throw a wrench into my possible offer. The Kyuubi mentioned. Possible offer? Jiraiya repeated curiously. I might as well tell you anyway, since the kit's too young to understand. You see, the Biju, when sealed inside a human, can do something to help their host out and prolong their life. Usually, the creation of a Kekkei Genkai, thus the source of them all. The Kyuubi explained. So that little tidbit I heard was right. Jiraiya quickly thought. The Kyuubi continued explaining. The way it works is based on the host's age and the number of our tails. Take the Ikibi for example, he can offer a single Kekkei Genkai to his host, but it has to be done before the first birthday or else all he gets is extra chakra and quick healing. Since a human that young can't understand the situation, the Ikibi usually chooses the Kekkei Genkai for them, and it's always sand-wielding. So you can give Naruto a Kekkei Genkai to make him a better ninja when he's older. Jiraiya asked, and Kyuubi nodded. But Naruto's 3, going on 4. Isn't he too old for you to do that? If I was the Ikibi, or anything weaker than the Sanbi, then yes. But I have until he's 9 years old, since I have 9 tails. And what's more, I can give him 9 Kekkei Genkais total, either already existing or completely original. All he has to do is decide which ones he wants, and I can give them to him. Jiraiya gasped. N9 Kekkei Genkai. How could anyone possibly handle that? He can't use them all at once. And if he were to reproduce when he's using one of them, it would be passed down to his own kits. He'll basically be a Kekkei Genkai factory and need 9 mates when he's old enough. Jiraiya paled. N9 whoa. Women. I never thought I'd envy a 3-year-old before. Then he thought of something unperverted. Wait, what do you get out of this? 2 things. 1, that he won't die anytime soon. The host's death hurts the Biju too and it hurts like hell every time. And 2, when he finally does die, if he accepts the offer, then I don't die with him, but get to return home. Otherwise, our lives become permanently linked. Haven't you ever wondered why everyone says when a Jinchuriki dies the Biju does too, but all 9 of us are still alive when there have been Jinchuriki in the past? Jiraiya went over all this newly gathered info quietly. When he opened his eyes, he found himself back outside the seal in the room with the others, laying on his back with everyone but Naruto gathered above him. How long was I out? A few minutes. Did something happen? Tsunade answered. Jiraiya sat up and popped his back. Yeah, I ended up talking to the fox somehow, and heard something rather interesting. Like what? Anko asked. Well, Jiraiya started. Crap, how can I explain this to a kid? After thinking of the best way to phrase it, he answered her. Let's just say Naruto here, when older, is going to be very strong and need several girlfriends. Anko smiled, but Tsunade scowled. You better not be planning on making him a pervert. Anko-chan, why don't you leave the room for a bit so the grown-ups can talk about this? Orochimaru suggested. The purple-haired girl got the hint and left the room, but hung outside the door to eavesdrop. I know you're still there, Anko-chan. Thus she sighed in defeat and walked away. Now what's this about several girlfriends? Tsunade asked hostily, with the beginning signs of fire in her eyes. I know this is hard for you to believe, Haim, but the Kyuubi told me that when Naruto here turns 9 he can create 9 Kekkei Genkai for him to have, and he can pass one down to each of his children. So 9 wives would help him out, unless you'd rather one girl have 9 children. Jiraiya explained. Tsunade blanched, while Orochimaru grinned. He can create his own Kekkei Genkai. Jiraiya nodded. Or he can assume one that already exists or went extinct. He can only use one at a time though, and each kid of his can only inherit one. I'm not sure what the case would be if the mother has one too though. Orochimaru's grin widened. This is perfect. I know we already brought in some Kekkei Genkais, but an opportunity like this is like a godsend. Think about it, we can either help out a thinning bloodline or make one that none of our enemies have ever heard of. Hell, we may even be able to improve already existing ones. Calm down, Tem, none of this can happen until he's 9. Jiraiya pointed out. I know. So we've got 6 years to help Naruto come up with 9 abilities. Oh, the possibilities. I think we just got a great trump card against Konoha. Orochimaru claimed. I know I'm overpowering Naruto too much, as many fics tend to do, but I decided to try out a harem fic and I wanted a reason less cliché than the CRA. I've already got a few good ideas for some bloodlines in most of the girls, but I'm not finished for both lists. If anyone wants to offer a few ideas for girls or bloodlines, leave them in a review. I'll keep the bloodlines a mystery, but here are the girls already selected. Hinata, Isaribi, Kin, Sasama, Femhaku, and Hanabi. Tayuya, Tamari, and Shizune are good too if readers want, but Anko and Kurenai won't be options. I've already got plans for them. Morning came and the 3 Sannin were the first to wake up. This was rather early for Tsunade, but she didn't have a hangover this time. Orochimaru, who was used to getting up early to check on the kids right away, did just that while his teammates still had to rub the sleep out of their eyes. Oddly, before he got to any of their rooms to see if they were up yet, he ran into Hitomi, who looked like she was waiting for him. Good morning, Sannin-sama. Would it be alright if I had a word with you before the children get up? Sure. And call me Orochimaru, please. The pale Sannin told her as he led her to an empty room that he was planning on making a kitchen for the residents. So what's on your mind, Hitomi-san? The pale-eyed woman seemed hesitant to answer, but made no effort not to. Orochimaru-sama, remember how Tsunade-sama said my problems were because of someone poisoning me and not related to childbirth complications? He nodded. I've been thinking it over and, even though it disgusts me, I think I know why someone would do that. Orochimaru could easily sense how troubling this was for her. Would you like some tea or something? You look like you need something for your nerves. That would be nice, thank you. She answered quietly. Fortunately, the room had enough already in it to boil water, so Orochimaru was able to actually make the drink. He didn't say a word more until it was done and he handed her a steaming cup, keeping one for himself in case she didn't feel right drinking alone. After taking a long sip, Hitomi started telling what she knew and suspected. It all started before Hanabi was born, to be honest. But I should probably start there. You see, when I had problems after she was born, I thought it was normal after birth complications, just more exhausting than what I went through with Hinata. But ever since Tsunade-sama told me someone had poisoned me, I've been thinking it over and I can only come to one conclusion. I've been wondering about that too, but go on. Hitomi sighed. The way I see it, only someone from the Hyuga main branch would have had the opportunity. Even my own husband could be a suspect, although I don't want to believe that. As for motive, that requires me to tell you something rather unpleasant I discovered a week before Hanabi was born. Something that may have larger ramifications than I already suspect. She could tell the snake Sannin was still paying attention here, so she decided not to beat around the bush anymore. One day that week, I was supposed to get a checkup to ensure my baby was doing well, and I had to wait for the doctor to show up. I got curious and used my Byakugan to see how far away they were so I'd know how long to wait, but my eyes saw something much more interesting. I saw numerous connected paper bombs inside the walls of the building and even the foundation. And the connections led to outside, so I checked the full scope of my visual limits and saw there was a whole network of paper bombs throughout the entire village. Orochimaru somehow paled. Paper bombs throughout the village. Hitomi nodded. Yeah, I was immediately worried. Someone could destroy the entire place with just a kunai or something if they wanted to. I was going to alert someone, but before I did I thought of something. The vast majority of those bombs were built inside buildings, meaning they were put there when the village was being built or reconstructed, and that was a long time ago. There is no possible way I was the first Hyuga to actually catch a glimpse of this setup. Even if I didn't make it a point to use my Byakugan regularly off the compound, others would and someone would have had to spot something. Orochimaru frowned and nodded, meaning a genjutsu was involved that stopped working, or they're the ones who made this trap. Hitomi nodded with him, or at least they know about it and plan to use it to their advantage somehow. How do you envision them doing something like that? Well, I have heard talk from the Hyuga elders about how they feel the Hyuga should run the village. Hitomi started. Orochimaru scoffed. Sounds like a typical Uchiha attitude. Oh, pardon, it's okay. Anyway, I always thought it was just banter. But now, I suspect they may someday try it, and if they fail, they'd trigger the network to take the whole village down with them. I brought this up with Hokage-sama and he admitted this was a serious issue and would get right on it. I kept silent about it and saw Anbu poking around the city, so I'm sure it's being handled. I think someone in the main branch must have caught on to what I discovered, because I went into labor earlier than expected and that would have been the perfect chance to get rid of me. Orochimaru nodded. Makes sense. If you had died they could have said it was from childbirth and not murder. And I'm willing they did something that triggered labor so they could get a second heiress before losing you. One thing I don't get is how they could have known you knew anything if you only spoke, too. His eyes widened at this new thought and he dropped his teacup. As it shattered on the floor, he stood up in outrage. That son of a bitch. What's wrong, Orochimaru-sama? Hitomi quickly asked, afraid she had upset him somehow. Hitomi-san, the way I see it, there's only one way for anyone from the Hyuga to know you found out anything. And that's for the one person you told to have told them. Orochimaru explained with a grim expression. Hitomi gasped. You mean, Hokage-sama? Orochimaru nodded. How else? And even worse, that means he's onto the bomb trap as well. If he wasn't, he wouldn't say a word to the Hyuga and simply have Anbu remove them without anyone knowing. If he told anyone, it could only be because he was part of the setup. Maybe the whole thing was his idea and he's using some of the Hyuga clan to keep an eye on the network. And I'm willing to bet those Anbu you saw were just making sure the whole thing was still operable. Hitomi placed her tea down. Do you really think the Hokage would do such a thing? The Sannin slowly and sadly nodded. There are things about the man I don't want to believe either, but I've seen too much to deny it. And now I'm suspecting there are more secrets of his we could benefit from knowing. If only you could find evidence of them. Hitomi casually offered. Orochimaru smiled in his trademark manner, already coming up with an idea. Later that same day, three toads were inside Sarutobi's office while the old Hokage was at a council meeting. One of them went in first and managed to hotwire the one security camera into playing a continuous loop of nothing happening. Since the Hokage Tower was one of the most secure places in Konoha with ninja, traps, and seals everywhere, cameras were little more than a peace of mind last resort that few paid much attention to. Once the toad was sure he succeeded in tricking the camera and anyone who may check the footage later, all three went to the Hokage safe. The safe was designed to contain anything that was for the Hokage's eyes only, and anything they left for their successor. It's a good thing the old man told Jiraiya the combination. A red toad mentioned as he turned the dial. Yeah, old man must have never suspected Jiraiya of wanting to take a close personal look at anything without S. A yellow toad added. He was partially right, because Sarutobi told Jiraiya the combination to the safe to ensure he could secure whatever was inside and add to it should he himself be someday unable to. The safe opened and there was no alert, since only the Hokage was likely to open it anyway. The three toads grabbed as much as they could, locked the door, and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Back in Oto, the three Sannin patiently waited while Hitomi was watching over the children elsewhere in the tower. When the three toads returned to them, they were both eager and apprehensive about what they may find. Either way, they wanted to get through it all quickly so they can put everything back and never be caught. Unlikely, yes, but not impossible for the Sannin. Besides, all they were really looking for was anything that might pose a threat to Naruto later. The first thing to catch their eyes was a set of documents in a folder with Iwa written on it. Considering the relations Konoha had with the Rock Village, they couldn't help but wonder what was inside. What they found was the last thing they'd ever expect to see. The official story about Iwa was that during the last war Minato used his Hiraishin and Rasengan, among other impressive jutsus, to decimate a large number of rock nin to save Konoha and thus earned Iwa's animosity for generations to come. If Iwa ever knew he had a living relative, especially a defenseless one like Naruto, they'd do absolutely anything to kill them come hell or high water. Sarutobi had made sure each one of the Sannin knew this, even before the boy was born. Apparently that had been another lie to the Sannin. According to the documents in the file, Iwa was actually grateful to the Yondaime rather than spiteful. The shinobi he killed were about to try their own complete and total takeover of Iwa, and Minato happened to be in the right place at the right time to get rid of them all. The end result was the Namikaze name being praised in Iwa and them wanting to be allies with the Yondaime and his family. If anything, they'd give Naruto their own forbidden scroll before trying to kill him. Sensei lied to us about Iwa. Tsunade managed to make herself ask. Why the hell would he do that? I don't know, but I plan on going to visit the Tsuchikage and confirming this detail right away. Jiraiya told them. If it's true, then we'll have a good ally for this village. Orochimaru nodded. Agreed. What was that old fool thinking by misleading us that way? What was he afraid of? Look at this one, Tsunade said as she held up another folder labeled, Suna. This one has messages from the current Hokage to the current Kazekage in regards to their Jinchuriki. Suna has a Jinchuriki? Orochimaru asked. Jiraiya nodded. Yep. The Aikibi from what I've gathered. And he's about Naruto's age if I remember correctly. Well, get this. Tsunade started as she held out one of the papers she'd been looking over. Sarutobi sensei said to the Kazekage, and I quote, so you've got the Aikibi contained. Big deal. I've got the Kyuubi under my control, and when he's older he'll do whatever I tell him because he'll see me as one of the few worth listening to hear. You'd have to put your son through several kinds of physical and emotional hell before you pose any kind of threat to my village's grandeur. End quote. Orochimaru wanted to puke. So it's not enough he tried to sabotage Naruto's chances for a good future, but he had to try and do the same for a kid in another village. Tsunade pulled out another page rather than answer. And it says here from the Kazekage that he's calling the old man's bluff and trying to make his Jinchuriki, his own son nonetheless, into a perfect killing machine. If you don't mind, I'd like to go there and see what I can do about it. What do you hope to accomplish? Orochimaru asked. Well, I'd like to see just what the Kazekage is doing to his son and if possible persuade him to stop. There's no reason for him to be so malicious just because Sarutobi sensei egged him on. The medic nin explained, then swallowed hard. Also, if possible, I'd like to bring Naruto along, since I'm sure he can relate to the poor boy better than anyone else could. Take Naruto with you? Orochimaru asked in disbelief. The sad thing was that he understood her reasoning. If the Suna Jinchuriki was suffering, then Naruto would be the perfect person to lift his spirits and maybe undo any damage. But at the same time, the idea of Naruto going somewhere without him wasn't a good one to him considering the past 3 years. I think that might be a good idea, Orochimaru. Jiraiya added. The only reason they were really seeking his approval wasn't because he was the chosen ruler of the city, but because they were aware he had more say over Naruto's well-being than they did, irregardless of their godparent status they never used. Alright, but his guardian Sango is going with him. I'm sure Anko-chan will want to as well though, so how do you feel about that? The snake Sannin asked. Personally, I'd rather not. I'm good enough to protect him on my own and she'd just get in the way. The slug Sannin answered. Orochimaru chuckled. Try telling her that. I dare you. With the help of some clones, the documents were quickly copied and the Toads were very fortunate to get the forgeries inside the vault before Sarutobi returned to his office. The authentic ones would stay in Odo should they be needed later, and no one in Konoha would be the wiser unless Sarutobi took a good look at his own secret collection. The next day, Jiraiya told everyone in the tower he needed to check out something in a village up north. Tsunade said she had to do the same in a village down south. Everyone wished them luck, but once she mentioned she'd be bringing Naruto with her, Anko and Hinata acted up. Hinata just cried because she regarded the boy as her best friend, and Anko didn't really trust Naruto to be with any adults besides Orochimaru too much. In the end, when Tsunade did leave Odo, she brought along 2 kids and a snake, hoping she wouldn't come back with less. After a week of traveling, Tsunade had reached Suna, bringing Naruto and Anko with her. along with their two guardian snakes, which were currently small enough to hide in their pockets and were doing just that. Part of it was to get out of the heat of the desert, and the other part was to make their trio a little less threatening. Not that an old woman with two kids looked threatening already, but they weren't natives in a hostile land and there was no reason for them to stand out so much. Standing at the gates into the desert city were two armed guards, postured to be on alert rather than sitting in a booth like Konoha guards. They did have a tarp over them to provide some shade, but that was the only similarity. Halt. Tsunade stopped and stood confidently but with no hint of hostility. My name is Tsunade Senju and I'd like to discuss business with the Cage regarding Konoha. The guards recognized her name, as did many active shinobi in the elemental nations. We haven't been informed of any visitors. I'm not here on any official business. More of a, I've got something he'll want to hear, sort of visit. Tsunade told them. The two guards huddled and whispered. Should we let her in? What would Cage-sama do? She may be a Sanin, but we have home field advantage and the numbers advantage if she tries anything. Besides, if she was going to do something, wouldn't she have brought something more helpful than two kids? The two guards thought it over a bit more silently before returning their attention to their visitor. One of us will escort your party to the cage tower. Do not try anything foolish. Tsunade nodded. Lead the way. And please tell me you've got a casino here. What's a desert without casinos? And some ice cream too. It is too freaking hot. Anko added, wiping sweat off her forehead. I don't think you'll be disappointed. One guard answered, trying to sound friendly. Everyone was quickly led to the cage's tower, but only Tsunade went inside. There was a park within sight of the tower with some kids playing and a shaved ice kiosk nearby, so she told them to go play while she had a meeting they would be bored attending. Anko bought some shaved ice for the both of them with some money Tsunade gave them, then the two stood in the shade of a building watching some kids kick a ball around. Anko quickly noticed one of the kids was sitting on a swing instead. Not using it, just sitting there and watching the others palely with a forlorn look. Wondering what was wrong, she grabbed Naruto's wrist and walked over to check on the boy. A closer look showed this boy was about Naruto's age, maybe year older at most. He had red messy hair and dark rings around his brown eyes, like a raccoon. His clothes looked like earth-toned rags and his skin wasn't really tan but a healthy color for one outside a lot. His face, however, showed a lot of fear and unhappiness once he looked at the approaching new kids. Poor boy, he must be an orphan. Anko thought sadly. But she then showed a friendly grin and sat on the swing next to him. Hi, I'm Naruto, and this is my Nichan Anko. Who are you? The redhead blinked in surprise several times before answering. Gaara Subaku. Nice to meet you, Gaara. Nichan, gimme a push. Naruto said while trying to get his own swing to start moving. Anko got up and pushed Naruto, stopping once he got enough momentum. Want one too, Gaara? Gaara looked at Naruto and Anko before nodding. She gave him a few gentle pushes and soon he was rocking back and forth like a pendulum. It looked a lot to her like he was almost afraid to enjoy himself, since he wasn't really smiling. The ends of his lips did curl up, but it looked like he was trying to mask any pleasure for some reason. Hey, get away from there. Some boys called out. Anko turned to see all the kids who had been playing were now watching her and Naruto with Gaara, and what surprised her more was that they looked like they had seen a ghost. Something wrong? You're actually playing with him? One of the girls asked, as if the very idea was frighteningly unthinkable. Yeah, so what's got you all so worked up? Anko asked. Naruto carefully watched while Gaara looked like he wanted to vanish. You shouldn't go near him. He's a monster. Another girl told them. Anko frowned, remembering all the times she heard people in Konoha say such things about Naruto and her. Better watch what you say. She warned, balling her fists, while her guardian snake Kogyoku popped her head out to see if anything was wrong. I have no patience for people who talk like that. But everyone says he's a killing beast. A boy declared, sounded more concerned than hostile. Anko smirked. People say the same about my Otudo all the time. So why would being near Gaara bother me? Kogyoku ducked back into the pocket, feeling Anko could handle this herself for now at least. A few kids frowned and gave Naruto dirty looks too. Fine. If you wanna die, be our guest. With that, They all went back to their game and pretended this talk never happened. Anko sat down on her swing but didn't move, just looked at the two young boys next to her. Everything okay? You did great, Nichan, Naruto enthusiastically claimed. Why did you stick up for me? Gaara asked. People back in our first home said the same things about Naruto and I didn't like it. No way I was gonna let them trash talk another like that. Gaara looked shocked, but lightly smiled again. Thanks, he said very quietly. For once the sand around him and the voice in his head weren't agitated. Why do they call you a monster too? Naruto asked. Gaara looked down. I don't know. Back home everyone did that to me too. It gets rough, I know. But at least your family is there to make it all better, right? Gaara slowly shook his head. Nope. My father and siblings barely even talk to me. Yoshimaru Jizun does, but only at night when I can't sleep. Anko gasped and got off her swing. You poor boy. She held him in a hug and immediately felt his body tensen and some sand start to rise around her feet. Afraid she scared him, she let go. It's okay, I wasn't going to hurt you. What was that? Gaara asked. It's a hug. It's a sign of friendship. Naruto told the redhead. Friendship. Gaara repeated, as if testing the word. Naruto nodded. Yeah, we'll be your friends. We've been called monsters too, so why not? Gaara smiled. What's this weird feeling I have? It's like, I feel safe. Even more than with my sand. Naruto got off the swing and noticed the kids left their ball behind. Come on, let's play a little. He kicked it to Anko, who kicked it to Gaara. His foot caught the ball, and he carefully kicked it towards Naruto, who had to run to catch it. In no time at all, a three-man game of soccer was going on, with three smiling kids. Tsunade was led into the office of the Yondaime cage, and told to take a seat on a mat in the center of the room. Once inside, she noticed the overall look was similar to the Hokage's office last time she saw it, but this one had several seals on the walls. She didn't recognize any, but she couldn't see any that looked potentially dangerous to her. Still, her guard wasn't coming down if this cage made a move. So, one of the legendary Sannin wishes to discuss something with me. Well, I'm curious if nothing else. The cage started. Cage-sama, before I bring up the topic I wish to discuss, I would like to know how you view your relation with Konoha. Tsunade started. Since the cage wore a cloak over his face, much like Kakashi did with his own mask, it was difficult to read any expression he had. Well, we've got a peace treaty between us, but I'm still wary of anything hostile that might ensue if it's a trick to lower our guards. Do you have reason to believe Konoha or any of its leaders have ill intentions towards you? Cage paused, trying to think of the best way to answer that. How is that any of your concern? You're not affiliated with my village, and from what I've heard, you personally haven't been inside your own in years. So why would you care about how the two villages interact? Shrewd man. Like any good cage, he knows not to give away too much info before getting more than he can offer. Question is, how to get him to open up with revealing too much on my own end. Tsunade thought silently. After a moment, she spoke up again. To be frank, Cage-sama, I don't. You're right, I'm not connected to Suna and my bond with Konoha is strained to non-existent. However, I've come across something that leads me to believe you and the Sandaime Hokage are at each other's throats, and the reason is inconsequential. Cage looked surprised to hear such a thing. Inconsequential. Tsunade narrowed her eyes but in an unthreatening way. Cage-sama, I know you have a Jinchuriki within this village, and the Hokage has told you how inferior he will be compared to the one Konoha has. How would you feel if I told you that was a bluff? A bluff? As in Konoha doesn't have a Jinchuriki? Cage sat there looking at her and occasionally glancing at the seals in the walls. These seals were basically lie detectors and constantly read the heart rate and chakra flow of anyone in the room, sans the Cage himself. If they detected any dishonesty, they would release several tranquilizer-coated Senbon and some knockout gases the Cage had developed some tolerance to. They weren't designed to kill, since the interrogators wouldn't get the truth from a corpse. Since not a single one of them was reacting, he could only conclude the slug Sannin was being honest. The Cage took a moment to let this sink in. So Konoha does not possess a Jinchuriki? Tsunade nodded, and he sighed. That's a relief. I know several villages have one or two, but so far Konoha has been the only one to actually use it in a threatening way against us. If they can't flaunt one, then I don't have to be as harsh to my own. I don't recommend going easy on him, or any of your shinobi, but I don't believe you should be inhumane to him either. After all, Jinchurikis are only the prison, not the prisoner, and there's not a single one that chose that fate. Tsunade stated. Kazekage stood up slowly, clasped his hands behind his back and turned so his left side faced the window, letting him look outside but still able to keep an eye inside his office if need be. To tell the truth, I already knew that, but because of Konoha's threat, I tried convincing myself that the best thing for us all was to do the opposite. I didn't like seeing my own son be so alone and keep my other two children away from him. His uncle, my brother-in-law, helps him from time to time more than me, but I sense he has at least some hostility towards the boy. I was sure all that animosity was good for us all, even if bad for Gaara, and maybe years from now, I would have stopped caring completely if this meeting never happened. So what do you plan to do now? Tsunade asked. Kazekage sighed. I'm not sure. With the main threat gone, maybe I should try to be a father more than a cage for a bit. And definitely get his siblings to be around him more. Maybe he won't become the perfect weapon, but at least he won't become a bigger threat to us than anything Konoha could use. Tsunade nodded, looking pleased. Also, I've heard one of your teammates is a seal expert, am I right? She nodded again. Would it be too much trouble for him to come by and have a look at Gaara's seal? Sometimes the demon in him gives him trouble, making me question its strength. I can arrange that. Which demon is it, by the way? The Ikibi, weakest of the Biju. A big reason why the Hokage's threat unnerved me so much and why I was so eager to be as brutal as possible in his training. But why are you telling me all this? I didn't like the idea of you destroying your own son's well-being just because some old man wanted to sound big. And the old man himself is in hot water with me and my teammates, so all the more reason. Tsunade explained. I won't ask for more. Also, am I correct in assuming it would be best if I didn't let a word of this meeting out to Konoha? Kazekage asked. Yes, that would be best. Very well. Later that night, Tsunade and the Toe kids checked into a hotel so they wouldn't have to wander the desert at night. At the Kazekage's house, he surprised all three of his kids by calling them into the living room together. Tamari and Kankuro were surprised Gaara was included, since he was always left out of these sorts of things. When they got there, he was sitting comfortably on a cushioned chair, so Tamari and Kankuro stood in front like a pair of trained soldiers. Gaara tried to imitate them but lacked the resolve to be as stable. Kids, I've decided to try something new from now on that may benefit you all. He started. From now on, I'm going to be more involved in your training and your lives outside training too, like I probably should have done from the beginning. All three kids looked more surprised than one might expect of them. What do you mean, Otu-sama? Tamari asked. I mean, I'm going to try and be more of a parent from now on and not just a commander. Kazekage answered. Why? Not that I mind, but why the sudden change of heart? Kankuro asked. Kazekage smiled, and since he wasn't masking his face, everyone could see it. Because now I'm not afraid not to. He then glanced over at Gaara. You okay, son? The redhead nodded. Yes, Otu-sama. I'm well, better than ever thanks to my new friends. You made friends? Kazekage asked as Tamari and Kankuro gave him curious glances. Gaara nodded. Yes. Their names are Naruto and Anko. They told me they'd visit as much as possible since they don't live here. And write once I know how to write and read. Interesting. I think I'd like to see them too. Tamari added, thinking they had to be quite brave and or kind to want to associate with Gaara. Kazekage smiled, feeling quite paternal, something he hadn't felt in years. That's good, son. Very good. A knock at Tsunade's door the next morning woke her up and she was not happy about it. Grumbling while rubbing her eyes, she opened the door. What do y'all want at this ungodly hour? Language please, there are children present. And for the record, 9 in the morning hardly qualifies as such. Some soft voice Tsunade assumed belonged to a man replied. When Tsunade finally looked at her visitors, she first saw a feminine-looking man with pale hair and a gentle expression. With him were 3 kids, a blonde girl which looked to be the oldest, a brown-haired boy, and a red-haired boy which looked to be the youngest. Hi, what brings you here? My name is Yoshimaru, and with me are Kage-Sama's children. Apparently one of them made friends with some children in your care and wished to spend time with them before you left our village. And the other two were curious about the first kids brave enough to socialize with them. I woke up early because some kids wanted a play date. Tsunade irritably thought. I'm sorry if this inconveniences you, but Kage-Sama thinks this is a good thing for them all. Are you in any particular hurry to leave? Yoshimaru added. Tsunade shook her head. No, I need some time to compose myself. I'm not a morning person and haven't been an active shinobi in years, so I can't be in a rush just yet. Yoshimaru smiled. Well, in the meantime, please watch after these three and return them to the cage tower when it's time for either you or them to go home. Before the Sanin could interject, he had already left the hallway. Well, since I don't have much of a choice now, come on in and keep quiet. Tsunade gestured while yawning. When the three new kids were in, she noticed Anko and Naruto were already awake and playing tic-tac-toe at a table. How long have you two been up? About 20 minutes. Anko answered. Hi Gaara. Naruto waved happily. So these are the only two kids brave enough to be around Gaara. Tamari thought as she looked over the purple-haired girl and the blonde boy. Boy's cute and I bet he'll be handsome when older. Girl looks like the type one can enjoy being around. Hi, I'm Tamari Subaku, and this is the brother you don't know, Kankuro. And just to warn you, he's a bigger pain than Gaara is sometimes. I am not. Yes you are. Gaara doesn't go through my makeup kit. It's war paint. Glad I don't use the stuff then so he can't steal it. Anko stated, not believing the cloaked boy's cry. After all, it did look a lot like makeup to her. Not you too. Doesn't anybody believe me? Kankuro whined. Hey Otuto, what do you think? Makeup or war paint? Anko asked Naruto. The young boy took one brief look before answering. Makeup. Everyone but Kankuro laughed. Well, Tsunade and Gaara just grinned instead. So what brings you three here today? Tsunade asked politely. Tamari being the oldest chose to answer that. Our father thought it would be a good idea, and so did we. Gaara here has never been able to make friends before yesterday and we wanted to get to know the first people willing to do that. Tsunade looked at the raccoon-eyed boy. So he's this village's Jinchuriki. No wonder him making friends is a big deal to them. Bet he can get along with Naruto, even without either of them knowing the truth. Okay then, now that you've met, what next? We usually spend our mornings training in a private area. Wanna come along? Kankuro asked. Sure, Naruto said. He didn't know any jutsu, but was starting to work on snake-style taijutsu, which Anko had several years' experience at by now. Gaara looked down at his feet, until his sister tapped his shoulder. You can come too, Gaara. Just don't go overboard. The boy looked shocked, and to a point relieved. During one of the cage's breaks, he looked out his window over the training ground his children were using to practice. Along with them was the slug Sanin and two children he didn't recognize, but assumed were the friends Gaara mentioned. Tsunade was watching over as the five kids worked on taijutsu. Actually, Gaara was just making punching motions while standing still rather than real practice. Kage-sama, why exactly have you called us here? One of the gathered Junin in the room asked. Many of them, including Yoshimaru, but not all of them since all couldn't fit, had been ordered to appear here for an announcement. I've called you here to give you a very important order. Kage started, not facing any of them. Remember how I was toying with the idea of ordering assassinations on Gaara to either strengthen him or eliminate him? Well, I've changed my mind. It was a foolish whim I wish I never had and I don't want to see anyone actually try to go through with it. You can't be serious. One Junin shouted in disbelief. Kage turned slyly to face the group now. And why is that? He's a monster. We need to get rid of him before he can destroy us. The same Junin answered. Wouldn't trying to kill him repetitively make him want to destroy us? Kage asked. What if we gave him reason to want to help us instead of hurt us? You actually want to cater to the Aikibi? A different Junin asked. No, I want to cater to my son, the boy who keeps the Aikibi locked up. Yoshimaru looked surprised. In all my years I don't think I've ever once heard Kage-sama refer to Gaara as his son. Some things happened recently, but Kage-sama, Wasn't sealing the demon inside a child so it can be killed the whole point? A female Junin asked. If it was, then why would Gaara still be alive today? For that matter, wouldn't I choose some orphan likely to die and not be missed over my own child? No, the whole point was to ensure the Aikibi didn't escape its previous prison and could be used for the good of the village. And all it took was my sister dying. Yoshimaru bitterly thought but didn't show any resentment. Cage continued before anyone could interject. We all almost forgot that, or maybe to some of us, completely forgot that. Well, yesterday I got a reminder, and I say Gaara is to be shown the same respect and training you'd give my other children. I see anyone doing otherwise without just reason and you will be demoted or fired. Am I understood? Some nodded, but some didn't, one of which being Yoshimaru. Is there something wrong? Cage-sama, this is a lot to take in now, and I'm not sure I can act like all my hostility never happened. A blonde Junin answered carefully. As long as you don't act on that hostility, that doesn't really matter. Is that too much to ask of you? Cage replied. The blonde Junin closed his eyes. No sir. Any other objections? Cage asked. There were none. Good. Return to your assignments and let the others know. They all left and he sat in his chair. That went well, I'd say. I hope it stays that way. Night came and Tsunade chose to stay one more night for the kids' sake. But they were leaving tomorrow as soon as possible back to Oto. Anko and Naruto said goodbye to the Subaku siblings in case they didn't get to see them tomorrow morning before they left, promising to keep in touch. Around midnight that night, with a large full moon high in the starry sky, Tsunade had to get up to use the restroom. Her moving around managed to wake Naruto up too, but not Anko. Something Wang Ba-chan? The sleepy 3-year-old asked, slurring his words. Nothing, dear, go back to sleep. She kindly told him before heading off to do her business. When she finished and came back, she noticed Naruto was out of bed and looking out the window wide awake. What are you doing, Naruto-chan? Ba-chan, just saw a shadowy ninja man run by carrying a kid. Naruto answered fearfully, as if he had just seen the boogeyman. I think he had red hair. Red hair? Gaara-chan, Tsunade thought, quickly getting worried. I guess Suna's full of people who aren't afraid to kill a child either if they think about the demon more. I came here to help this village's Jinchuriki, so I gotta check this out. She then picked up her godson. Naruto-chan, can you show me which way they went? Gaara was frightened. He had been keeping himself occupied by playing with a teddy bear since he couldn't sleep when his kindly uncle Yoshimaru came to him and offered him a drink. Next thing he knew, he couldn't move but was still awake, and Yoshimaru was joined with a new Suna Junin Gaara had never seen before. This one was a man with red eyes and a thin graying beard but no mustache. They both took him out of his room and carried him to the outer edge of Suna, on top of the roof of a weapons storage building. The fact that Yoshimaru, a non-acknowledged threat, was carrying Gaara was the one and only reason the sand hadn't slaughtered them already. Luckily, the Aikibi's chakra had been able to filter out the paralysis drug by now so he could speak and move. Yoshimaru Jizan, what are you doing? Sorry, Gaara, but you were never meant to live. The boy's primary caretaker told him, sounding woeful but not truly repentant. Why are you apologizing to him? He doesn't deserve it. The other Junin criticized. Take it easy, Keigo-san. Yoshimaru said peacefully as the sand around Gaara got agitated. Again, Gaara, sorry, but in the best interest of Suna, you have to die. Why? Gaara asked as he crawled backwards, crying. Why, Yoshimaru Jizan, what did I do to deserve this? And why are you trying to kill me? Don't you care about me? He briefly recalled a previous discussion he had with his uncle regarding pain, both physical and emotional, and his mother, where his uncle showed familial care for the redhead. The first time he remembered experiencing such a thing. You're an idiot if you think anyone can care about you. No one loves a demon. The Junin called Keigo claimed as he pulled out a dagger, ready to strike while the boy was too afraid to use his sand. Too bad he wasn't aware the sand could be commanded by Shukaku too, for he might have lived a little longer. Instead, the sand impaled him like a dango stick. Gaara looked at the sight briefly before looking to his uncle, really hoping the same thing didn't happen to him. Please, Yoshimaru Jizan, not you too. Why? The sand skewer dissolved to stay close to him and Keigo's body slumped on the stone roof they were on. You better have a damn good reason for this. A woman's voice sternly stated from out of nowhere. Yoshimaru and Gaara then saw Tsunade and Naruto step out of the shadows not looking happy. Tsunade looked pissed while Naruto looked surprised by the whole thing. And this morning I thought you were a decent person. Was that all an act? You don't understand the whole situation, Sanin-sama. I understand enough. Tsunade almost screamed, then calmed down. Naruto-chan, go check on Gaara-chan. She let him down and stepped between the boys and Yoshimaru. I already know that child contains the Ikibi, also called Shukaku here, but he's not the same entity. Even so, he's a constant reminder of the pain Shukaku has brought us. Can you blame us for wanting to rid ourselves of such a thing? Tsunade's scowl deepened. Yes, I can. If you can look me right in the eyes and tell me the first thing you see when you look at that poor child is anything but a poor child, then you are the monster. But he's not as innocent as you'd like him to appear. He's killed before and will keep doing so. The Suna Junin countered. The slug Sanin didn't look fazed. If you mean just now, I saw it and know it was self-defense. Your partner made the first move and I'm willing to tez it fy to the cage about it. That's not what I meant. He killed his own mother, my sister, and if he's willing to do that, who's safe? Yoshimaru added, sounding afraid and vengeful at the same time. Tsunade took a step closer. And how exactly does that bother you? What? Are you bothered by Gaara as a professional ninja who's thinking about possible bad events, or are you bothered as a brother who's bitter about losing a family member and taking it out on the one person connected to the event? Is this resentment on a professional or personal level for you? Yoshimaru scowled. Not that it's any of your business, but it's both. Then I'm reporting you to the cage. He told me his new orders regarding the treatment of Gaara-chan. Since you're a threat to him, I must report you. Tsunade proclaimed. Until then, she quickly did an induced sleep jutsu meant to calm panicky patients, but it did its job here and put the effeminate man to sleep. She turned around to look at the two boys. You two okay? Naruto nodded, but Gaara didn't. I'll never be loved, will I? Tsunade hugged him. You will be. I promise someday others will tell you how much they care about you. She then shedded a single tear. But can he last until then? Sorry to bother you so late at night, Cage-sama. Tsunade told the leader of Suna as some of the village's Anbu took Yoshimaru and his partner into custody. She was inside the cage's office with Naruto sleeping on her leg and Gaara wide awake in her lap with her arms around him in a gentle embrace. She wondered if the poor boy would have been able to sleep right then if he had been able to. No need. I'm glad you were able to help him out. If you hadn't, he might have been killed or emotionally scarred for life at hearing my brother-in-law denounce him like that. Cage replied after a sip of coffee to stay awake for this. But because of this little incident, I'm afraid I have a request of you, Sanin-san. What kind of request? Cage sighed. Even though I've declared Gaara as to be treated humanely, it's evident that not everyone will go along with it. I fear that in order for my son to become rational and stable, he may need to spend some time away from here. Reminds me of what Orochimaru told me regarding Naruto. Tsunade quickly thought. And you want me to care for him? With all due respect, Cage-sama, my teammates and I already have several children to watch over in our new home. I'm not asking for anything long-term. Just 6 months, a year tops. Long enough for him to accept kind human contact and long enough for this village to let go of their opinions towards him. I hope. And besides, since your teammate needs to look over his seal, wouldn't it be more convenient to bring Gaara to him so he can monitor the after effects? Tsunade wasn't in the mood to argue. All right then, you have a good point. Also, I'd like you to take my other 2 children along too. Cage added. At seeing Tsunade's alarmed expression, he continued. Part of it is for Gaara's sake and their own. They've spent so little time together even though they're siblings. In a non-hostile environment they can lose their fear of each other and start their bonds properly. Also, I must admit the notion of having all 3 of my kids receive care and guidance from the legendary Sanin is an added bonus. Well, when you already have 8 kids to watch over, what's 3 more for a short time? Tsunade thought wearily. I'll try, but if my teammates don't agree, I'll have to bring them back. Besides, Are you so sure it's wise to let someone you don't even know look after your children? Cage sighed. It's sad, but for the brief time you have been here, you and your group has already done more for them than this village would have ever done without you. If I can't ask you to secure their well-being, who can I? Remembering Yoshimaru, Tsunade nodded. All right then. Wonder what Jiraiya and Orochimaru will say about this. Meanwhile, in Iwa, Jiraiya was on edge about how his own little encounter with a foreign cage was going to go. While he hoped things would go in his favor, he wasn't about to pretend there was no potential danger here. Not with Iwa's reputation regarding Konoha forces, even if that may turn out to be truly false. Which was the whole point of this visit. So far, the fact that Jiraiya hadn't been attacked on sight was a good thing. When he asked for permission to see the Tsuchikage, they told him to wait outside city limits while one of Iwa's Anbu checked to see if the Tsuchikage even wanted a visitor. He had to wait a day outside before he got an answer, but for a hermit like him that was nothing. The answer he did get certainly surprised him. The next morning, the Tsuchikage came to the gates personally to see him there, accompanied by 2 guards. One was a tall hefty person that looked like part of the Akamichi clan, and the second was a brunette kunoichi in attire that was easy on Jiraiya's eyes. The Toad Sanin allowed himself one brief perverted mental moment to get it out of his system before he became purely professional about this opportunity. Tsuchikage-sama, I presume, Jiraiya greeted generally. Man, this guy really needs to retire. Was he always this short, or does he have that old person syndrome that makes them shrink to a fraction of their size? Yes, and what is so important you had to drag me away from my work and comfortable chair? Tsuchikage said, feigning irritation since he wanted to go outside and get some fresh air anyway. But he needed to maintain a tough image. Well, Tsuchikage-sama, as you may or may not know, I'm affiliated with Konoha. Jiraiya started to test for a reaction, which he didn't get. And recently I've come across some information regarding your village that absolutely must be confirmed by yourself. And why the heck should I? Because it involves the Yondaime Hokage. Jiraiya answered, again gauging the reaction. This time he got one, as the Tsuchikage widened his eyes and the 2 guards looked at the old man carefully, as if expecting orders just then. Tsuchikage then coughed and recomposed himself. What about him? Last I heard he died a little over 3 years ago. You're not gonna tell me that's changed, are you? Jiraiya shook his head. Nope. But what I need to know is your village's opinion on him. And let's just say I have a personal interest in knowing. Like what? The husky guard asked. Well, for one thing, I was his teacher. The Toad Sanin answered. There's the bait. If they really have enough anger at Minato to attack those closest to him, they should try something to me in a few moments. If they don't, it should mean Naruto's safe from them. Should we tell him? The Iwa Kunoichi asked the short old man. Tsuchikage shrugged. Why not? It's not going to change anything, is it? And the subject isn't something we really need to hide anyway. He then looked right at Jiraiya, as much as the height difference would allow for eye contact. I'd like to say you taught him well. We owed him a lot but never got the chance to repay him for his heroics here. So the Yondaime Hokage really is revered here? Jiraiya asked. Tsuchikage raised an eyebrow. Whatever made you think he wasn't? The Sandaime Hokage. There was a long pause for a bit. Care to explain? You might want to sit down for this. It could take a while. Jiraiya told him, sitting down himself to show this wasn't some trick. Neither one of the Iwa nin made an effort to move though. Anyway, as you should already be aware, the Yondaime Hokage, in the last great ninja war, slew a great number of your forces. Yes. And? Tsuchikage asked impatiently. The official story going around Konoha, as told by the Sandaime Hokage, is that your entire village would fight to the last civilian like a bunch of crazed mindless marauders to kill Yondaime-sama if he were still alive. Or his family if any were alive, irregardless of their age or involvement. All 3 of the present Iwa Shinboi involuntarily jerked back, as if stabbed by something. Care to repeat that? Tsuchikage asked. I think you heard it right the first time. Jiraiya responded formally. The only reason I'm here is because I've recently come across several documents and peace offers from Iwa to Konoha showing gratitude and concern for Yondaime-sama. Since I knew only what the Sandaime Hokage told me, I felt I needed to get an answer directly from the source. The kunoichi gave the Tsuchikage and then the toad Sanin confused looks. Why would he say something like that? I haven't the foggiest. But I need to know if there's any truth to it. Jiraiya replied. There might be a few people, those connected to the slain, but only a few and not the whole village. Your Hokage really did us a favor. Had he not been here at that time, we might have had a civil war and become similar to the Bloody Mist afterwards. The husky guard answered. Tsuchikage nodded in agreement. Indeed, we owe Minato Namikaze a great deal. The least we can do for him is not encroach on Konoha until it proves it deserves otherwise. Jiraiya sighed sadly. I'm afraid it may already be too late. At their predicted confused looks, he continued his train of thought. Yondaime-sama does have a living relative, and let's just say Konoha has been as bad to him as they claim you would be. Maybe worse. There was a bit of a pause from the Iowa shinobi. Who is he? Minato's 3-year-old son. Wait a minute. You said the Sandaime Hokage claims we'd be like monsters to him, a 3-year-old and the son of their hero. And Konoha has been just as bad in reality to the same 3-year-old all this time. The kunoichi asked, mortified by what she was hearing. Why? Jiraiya shrugged. I don't know all the details myself. And what I do know I can't reveal any more than I've already said. If you want to hear more, contact me through the daimyo of Land of Rice Paddies later. My teammates and I can better inform you then. Until then, if you have any contact with Konoha or the Hokage, try and pretend this discussion never took place. Tsuchikage faintly nodded. I'll keep that in mind. After all, my gut tells me I want to hear all of this little matter. Jiraiya nodded. Best they don't know about Naruto being a Jinchuriki for now. And as for everything else, I only have guesses for. Guesses that would only confuse them without them knowing of the Kyuubi's full involvement here. I have a lot to think about, so I'll part here and contact you if I need reassurance. So long Sanin-san, Tsuchikage said as he began to turn to go back to his office. Jiraiya nodded. Remember, Rice Paddy Daimyo if you need me. He then shushined away. The Iowa nin walked away in silence until they were inside the cage tower. Once there Tsuchikage raised a sound barrier around the three of them. So what do you two think he isn't telling us? Something really important. If he's right about all of Konoha treating Namikaze-sama's child so roughly, there must be a reason. Maybe 1 or 2 people would be horrible without just cause, but the whole village? Impossible. A whole village doesn't just come together and say, let's make this kid's life hell just for the fun of it. They must have a motive. Question is, what? The husky guard stated. Wait, I just thought of something. The kunoichi commented. Sanin-sama said Namikaze-sama's child was 3, right? Wasn't Konoha hit by the Kyuubi no Kitsune 3 years ago? Such an event was generally too big to be covered up and was heard all around the elemental nations. No enemies invaded Konoha afterwards because word got out little damage had been done, so the opportunity for invasion wasn't increased. Tsuchikage's eyes widened at the implication. Well, he was renowned as a sealing expert, so what you're suggesting is not impossible. Iowa had its own Jinchurikis which had been created under similar circumstances, so the connection was an easy one for them to make once they actually thought about it. Let me get this straight. The husky guard said. You're suggesting that the Yondaime Hokage saved his village from the strongest Biju of legend by sealing it inside his own child, effectively killing himself, and they repay him by abusing his child and making it sound like our village would be even worse if we knew about him. You got any better explanation? Considering what Sanin-sama told us, it makes sense. The kunoichi replied. Tsuchikage groaned. We have much to think about. But for now, none of this ever happened, am I clear? His 2 guards nodded. Good. Later on the Tsuchikage went back into his office and wearily rested his forehead on his clasped heads. What a mess. I highly doubt this is some sort of trick, since I myself sent an offer of peace to Konoha years ago and got a positive answer back. One of their own trying to manipulate a drift between us is illogical. It sounds to me like the current Hokage is up to something, but whatever it is, it sure isn't clear. I need to keep an eye on this matter, and until I'm more aware of the Hokage's involvement, it's best I keep him uninformed like he did me. Meanwhile, things weren't going that well for Orochimaru back in Oto. He should have known something like this would have happened, but was more focused on other pressing matters. At the moment he was dealing with Odo's first prisoner. The prisoner in question was a man from the Hyuga clan branch family, evidenced by the seal on his forehead. No other identifying features were on his person though. Hitomi might have recognized him if she saw him, but Orochimaru was keeping her ignorant of this situation for now, at least until he had a better understanding of it. He already had a good idea what was going on, but needed to confirm, and since he hadn't assigned any interrogators yet, he would have to do the job here. Why did you come here? The snake Sanin asked the captive, who was chained to a chair in a small room. It was a good thing Odo already had a place to put their captives even if they didn't expect any so soon. Piss off. The Hyuga spat. Never thought I'd hear talk like that from a Hyuga. But then again, I never expected the clan to be full of child beaters either. He then summoned a giant constrictor snake which got ready to constrict around the prisoner but didn't just yet. So tell me, why are you here? You'll never get anything out of me, you scumbag. The Hyuga said before he used one hand to make a hand sign that made his seal glow before he fell down coughing up blood. What was that? The snake asked. Orochimaru checked for a pulse, then saw the caged bird seal light up again and every orifice on the man's head started bleeding badly. He's definitely dead. Must have used a suicide jutsu to activate his own seal and avoid anything that could happen here. Didn't think Hyugas could do that to themselves. The snake left and Orochimaru used a fire jutsu to dispose of the remains. I have a feeling that the Hyuga family sent him after Hitomi-san to watch over her. Maybe to confirm her death if they indeed tried poisoning her. It did seem rather odd that when Jiraiya offered to take her to a healer they just let her go off on her own, even if they were innocent. But this also means he had to have followed Jiraiya the whole way or had some help tracking him. Something's not right here since the Hyuga track primarily with their eyes alone and Gamabunta runs too swift for any human to keep an eye on or keep up with on foot. And what's worse, it's possible this Hyuga got a message out about where we are and who's here. And I have no idea what to do about that just now. He paused for a brief sigh. I know Jiraiya already told them Hitomi-san and her baby didn't make it, but if this is any indication of things to come, we need to get on the defensive soon. Not just for the Hyuga, but maybe Konoha too. Ah guys, good thing you're. Tsunade, what's the meaning of this? Orochimaru said as his two teammates showed up back in Odo, coincidentally at the same time. But that wasn't what surprised him. No, what surprised him was that Tsunade had left with 2 kids and came back with 5. Long story short, Kazekage-sama wants us to watch over his kids for a few months, maybe a year but no longer. Tsunade answered, trying to make it sound like it was no big deal or at worst a minor inconvenience. Naturally it didn't work. Please tell me the unsummarized version, Tsunade. Orochimaru said wearily as he rubbed his head, feeling a small headache preemptively start. Hitomi, who was standing next to Orochimaru at the time, smiled to the children present. Welcome to our village. I hope you enjoy your time here and behave like God children should. Tsunade knelt down to look at the kids first. Say Naruto-chan, Anko-chan, why don't you introduce our guests to your other friends and make them feel welcome? Sure. Follow me guys. Naruto eagerly said before he ran down the hall excitedly. Anko quickly followed him. Wait, oh Tudo. You don't even know where they are. We gotta deal with this for 6 months. Kankuro snidely questioned as he and his siblings followed Anko. Once all the kids were out of sight, Tsunade turned to Jiraiya. Jiraiya, first thing I want to say is you need to look over the young boy with red hair tonight. Check the seal on him a dozen times if you have to, just make sure it works. Let me guess, he's Suna's Jinchuriki. Tsunade nodded, and then faced both her teammates. What we read was true, the Kazekage was being inhumane to his Jinchuriki, his own son, because he had become intimidated by Sensei's boasting. I managed to convince him there was no threat and he was relieved, and decided to treat the poor boy like a human again. But because of long-term past damage, he feared the boy couldn't just handle the new change and wanted us to look over him in an environment he knows isn't dangerous. Again, just temporarily, but this will ensure good connections with Suna. Good. One good thing to come. Jiraiya, anything on your end? Orochimaru replied. The Tsuchikage was a little more difficult in my opinion. Old guy really has a watchful eye on anyone who just shows up for any reason. But I did find out that Minato really is praised there and they're appalled that his son was a pariah back in Konoha. No guarantee on an allegiance yet, but I expect to hear from them within a week's time wanting to discuss one. I sure hope things work out. We could use the support. Hitomi commented. How much did either of you two tell about Naruto? Orochimaru asked. I said nothing other than he was alive. Jiraiya answered. Likewise. The Kazekage saw him and spoke with him once, but he shouldn't suspect anything unusual. Tsunade answered too. And as a side note, neither Naruto-chan or Gaara realizes their own situation or the other one's yet. Good. Let it stay that way for a bit. Let them both just be kids for a while, then tell them that burden. Jiraiya suggested. And I'll look over the seal first thing tonight. Just wondering how to explain it to him without saying too much. Aside from that, here's something I need to tell all of you, especially you Hitomi-san. Orochimaru started, gaining all of their interests. Not too long ago, we had an intruder. A member from the Hyuga branch family tracked Hitomi-san down with unclear but surely not beneficial motives. I didn't get much out of him, but it shows that Odo may not be as secure as we intended. Jiraiya smacked his hand with his fist. Damn it, it must have been because we came here on Bunta. Big guy leaves pretty big footprints after all, with flattened trees in them, so it probably wasn't that hard. Tsunade nodded. Good point. We'll have to find a way to cover the tracks up and soon. Any idea who it was? Hitomi asked. Orochimaru shook his head. Sorry. No name given or any identification. Hitomi sighed. I had a feeling something like this would have happened. If they really did poison me, then there's no way they'd just let me go off to see the best medic Nin Konoha knows to go get cured. Then why did they? Tsunade asked. Probably because refusing to would incriminate them or make them look dishonorable in the village's eyes. Jiraiya suggested. That's what I think too. The Hyuga have always been a vain clan, wanting the best public image. Second only to the Uchiha. So they say yes to avoid looking bad, then watch from the shadows to eliminate any problems without it being obvious they're responsible. Thus saving face and maybe gaining sympathy from the village for having suffered such a tragic loss. Tsunade summarized. I'm more concerned about what they'll do when their little errand boy doesn't return. Jiraiya added. Hitomi didn't know what to say just then. My own clan, my family, maybe even my husband, want me dead or completely under their control. All because I might have blown the cover on something that could be very dangerous in the wrong hands. It was my duty to report threats to the village, not hide them. What is going on here? Here's something you forgot, Tsunade-chan. Orochimaru added. Had things gone as they planned, it would have made Jiraiya look like he had placed Hitomi-san in a dangerous situation like an incompetent fool, and you like you're not as good a medic nin as your reputation claims. Jiraiya blinked and widened his eyes at the realization. Do you think that smear on us would have been intentional or just a side effect? Probably the latter. Why would anyone in Konoha want to deliberately defame two of its most celebrated soldiers? I don't know. This mess is too much for even me to understand right away. I can't even begin to understand why anyone there has done any of the things they've done. At least, I don't have a good answer for anything. Orochimaru answered wearily. Sounds like the will of fire is all burned out. Hitomi commented quietly. That it does. Jiraiya agreed. Then he thought of something off topic. Hey, not to be crass or anything, but with so many kids here at one time, is it possible that some people will start to think someone here's a pedophile? Everyone gave the Toad Sanin surprised looks, but Tsunade lightly grinned after a moment's thought. Well, if they do, won't they most likely accuse the one with the most perverted reputation? Jiraiya groaned, hit his head, and went off to guzzle down some sake while the others laughed. Meanwhile, Naruto and Anko found Hinata, Kabuto, Kurenai, Yamato, and Isaribi were busy playing in a pool outside. Kurenai was trying to show Hinata how to swim since she didn't know how yet outside the shallow end. The two boys were just floating around lazily while Isaribi swam like she had been born underwater. Hi guys. We're back. Naruto shouted as he walked up to them all. Hi Naruto-kun, Anko-chan. Who's that with you? Kurenai greeted while the others just waved. Some friends we got in Suna. They're going to be staying here for a little while. Anko answered. Tamari stepped forward and put her hand on her hip. Hi, I'm Tamari Subaku. The clown is my brother Konkuro and the redhead is my brother Gara. I'm not a clown, Konkuro countered. Your face says otherwise. The blonde Suna girl replied snidely. Anko leaned in to whisper to Konkuro. Maybe for the time being you shouldn't decorate your face with anything. But it looks cool. Then why is everyone making fun of you for it? The Suna boy slumped in defeat after that comment. Hey, you guys brought swimsuits, right? Let's swim, Naruto asked excitedly before ducking away to change into his own swimwear. Hey, where's Shizune-chan? Watching over Hanabi-chan for now. She'll be here shortly, Kurenai answered. Good think Tsunade-sama had some stop at that shop and get some swimsuits since they don't sell those in Suna. Tamari stated before going into a dressing room herself. Konkuro, Gara, and Anko soon changed as well and hopped in the pool, starting in the shallow end. Since Anko and Tamari had the most experience swimming, Tamari having been able to sneak into one of the few oases around Suna from time to time, they soon ended up in the deeper end. Kurenai would have joined them but was still helping Hinata get the hang of it. Yamato and Kabuto started doing the same with Konkuro and Gara. Naruto was just winging it but enjoying himself, and it looked like Isaribi was sticking close by him. Tamari gave Anko a small nudge and whispered. Looks like that girl has a bit of a crush on your brother. Maybe, but the other girl with white eyes has one too, I think. Which one do you think he likes? Anko shrugged. Don't know. Doesn't really matter since Jisen said he's supposed to have 9 wives when he's older. Maybe he'll have both. Tamari gasped silently. 9. How is that possible? Anko shrugged again. Dunno, but if Otudo deserves it, then it doesn't matter to me. Tamari gave the blonde boy a longer long. Wonder what's so special about him. Anko narrowed her eyes. Don't tell me you want to be one of the 9. Tamari shrugged and grinned mischievously. Not now, but maybe I'd like to be considered an option later on. He is a good person, you gotta admit that. Don't need to tell me that. Back in Konoha, Sarutobi was in his office dealing with a rather irate Danzo. But then again, a calm Danzo was probably a more dangerous one. Danzo, haven't I already told you that there are no free Jinchurikis to be claimed? How many times must we go over this? As many times as it will take until you realize my point is valid. The old Warhawk declared. Valid. You've been asking me, practically ordering me, the Hokage, to send out units to other villages and steal their Jinchuriki to replace the one we lost. It's not as simple as you'd like to imagine. Rubbish. Surely there must be a village that doesn't want their demon any more than Konoha did and would be glad to have it off their hands. Sarutobi narrowed his eyes. Even if you were right, what village would that be? No village announces to others that they have a Jinchuriki. The only reason I even heard about the one in Suna is because they asked Minato how to seal the Shukaku away and the Cage was naive enough to send the Hokage information that it had been successful before he realized Minato was no longer in office. Danzo wasn't swayed. That's what we have trackers for. Don't you realize that all villages keep their Jinchurikis guarded from outside threats until they can fight back? Sarutobi countered, ignoring the fact that Jinchuriki were only guarded to a point. Have you so little faith in your own ninja that you feel they can't accomplish this? Looks like you're getting too old for this job. Maybe someone. Danzo tried to say. Danzo, you're a year older than I am. If I'm too old, so are you. The Sandaime Hokage interrupted. Danzo scowled. Nevertheless, I still say I should round up some shinobi and have them. Danzo, like you yourself said a moment ago, the ninja are mine to control. You're not Hokage, I am. And I say it's a waste of resources to go Jinchuriki hunting. Maybe you and the rest of the council should have worked to ensure we didn't lose the one we already had. But no, it was so much more important to you to have everyone victimize him. We needed to ensure he knew his place. Danzo explained like he was justifying swatting a fly. And that place was going to be under my rule when he would have grown to be a shinobi. But thanks to everyone else he never lived past 3. And you want to say, oops, better luck next time. I'm not even going to consider this until I see good reason to take in a foreign ninja or another Biju strikes. And if by chance one does show up anytime soon, I will hold you responsible for it and make it known to the whole village. Damn, I guess I have no choice but to send out Root Nin to find a vulnerable young Jinchuriki. I was hoping to have it be approved by Hiruzen so I wouldn't have to waste my own resources, but it can't be helped. No matter how long it takes, I will acquire that sort of weapon. Danzo bitterly thought. Very well then. I'll leave you to your work, he said before leaving. Pompous sob. Sarutobi thought. He's still pissy that Nadime-sama chose me over him. I've been trying to shame him for years to get him to accept it, but it seems it's still going to take a while. If Naruto was still alive and able to serve me later, I'm sure he would have been an excellent tool in doing so. Alas, what's done is done and I have to deal with the future. Gotta figure out who could take the place of Hiyashi's late wife so the main branch can produce a new heir. He shouldn't mind since he married Hitomi for political reasons only, so doing it again would be nothing new. Also, I wonder if that one Hyuga was able to finish her off before she told Jiraiya or Tsunade anything they didn't need to know. He hasn't reported back yet, maybe he's a casualty. Well, as long as he got the job done, that's the important thing. A few years, 3 to be exact, had gone by and Oto remained an unknown village in the world. Many ninja in the village were trained and assigned ranks, but few had taken any missions outside the villages yet to avoid as much attention as possible. None even wore their official Hitai Atesh when on their missions to avoid letting any witnesses know there was a new hidden village. Although no one had actually left the country yet, they were still not ready to announce themselves to the world. So far only 2 places knew about its existence, its allies Suna and Aiwa, who made it official once the Tsuchikage heard the whole story from all the Sannin and saw documented proof of their claim. For the Sannin, Orochimaru and Tsunade mostly stayed in the village helping out the inhabitants. Since they had no official business in Konoha, they could get away with it. Orochimaru was the official leader, so he usually did the cage business for the village while Tsunade ran the hospital. Jiraiya had to stay out sometimes to keep up his spy network and the illusion he was still helping only Konoha, but he made sure to spend his off time in Oto. From the toads he had spy for him in Konoha occasionally, he learned Sarutobi didn't suspect a thing and Hitomi had been replaced in the Hyuga clan without much grief. As for the kids they were watching over, they were getting better with their shinobi skills. Being taught by all 3 Sannin to some degree gave them lots of things to practice and time to bond, and they'd be the best Oto nin ever when it was time for them. In fact, Anko, Shizune, Kabuto, Kurenai, and Yamato were all genin now, among the first genin Oto would produce. They weren't put on teams, just told to train together under the Sannin, and when they did real missions they'd be set up accordingly. Anko and Kabuto specialized in snake style, Shizune and Kurenai in slug style, and Yamato in toad style. The young ones, being Naruto, Hinata, and Isaribi, were still too young to be genin for a few more years, but they trained with no smaller amount of enthusiasm. Hanabi didn't as much since she was only 3, but she loved to watch and imitate. Naruto was learning the most from all 3 Sannin as expected, and Isaribi was trying to catch up to him. Hinata was learning how to mix new styles of combat into the Juken to make a different fighting style completely thanks to her mother. Snake style and toad style were the best ones for them to use, and Naruto used both while Isaribi and Hinata focused mostly on snake, with Hinata combining it with the Juken to create a new original version. So far things were working well for them all with little interference. But that would all someday change. Jiraiya was out of the village doing some serious work and some serious to him research near Taki when everything happened. He had been there for 2 reasons. 1, he thought the open baths would provide him much needed inspiration, and 2, Taki was the closest hidden village to Oto geographically and the next one they wanted to ally with. So he decided to check it out. So far he hadn't seen anything yet, and that included women bathing outdoors. He was starting to wonder if he had been following a false trail. It had happened before. Maybe the women only do that within the village. Just my luck. Since it would look bad if I tried to sneak in, and how could I explain to Sarutobi what I was doing here? What do you care what that old monkey thinks? Remember, he kept you in the dark. You owe him nothing. Jiraiya's inner pervert and proverbial shoulder devil told him. Well, you did come here to make an offer with the leader. You're not getting anywhere by hanging around the village borders suspiciously. Jiraiya's proverbial shoulder angel commented. Also, maybe your spy inside will help you find the women if you go up and ask him. Yep, Even his good side was a bit perverted. With that in mind, Jiraiya approached the waterfall and ran up it with chakra. As a Sannin, this was no real challenge to him, but it still required all his concentration. Once he was at the top, he made for land right away and was greeted by 4 armed Taki guards. "My name's Jiraiya. Tell your leader Shibuki I'm here to see him. He'll know who I am." Apparently one of the guards already knew who he was. "Ah, Jiraiya-sama, is Shibuki-sama expecting you?" "Not really, but that's because I'm here for more than just a hi." No one but him knew that the leader of Taki Shibuki was actually Jiraiya's informant for the hidden village. All because the Toad Sannin saved him from a wildcat one day and the cowardly leader insisted on repaying him in the most helpful and safe way. To everyone else, Jiraiya and Shibuki were just acquaintances who met each month for their own reasons. "I'll have to escort you to him for security reasons," the guard told him, who just nodded as he was familiar with the procedure. The two walked away, leaving the remaining guards to keep watch. "Ah, Jiraiya-san, is it that time already?" Shibuki said as he said Jiraiya approach. "Not really, Shibuki-san. I've got something to discuss with you that can't be overheard by anyone." The Toad Sage answered. "I see. Come with me." The two walked into a small humble hut and a silence barrier was activated. But before either could get down to business, both saw there was a third person present. "Fu-chan, did you sneak in again?" Jiraiya saw a young girl close to Naruto's age, maybe a year or two older. The most noticeable thing about her was her lime green hair. She wore a plain white outfit that looked dirty and torn in places and a small red bag tied on her back. Her eyes were red and they looked terrified and sad at the same time, like she had little to be happy about. Once she saw them both, she grabbed a few apples and rolls off the counter and darted out of the hut like a panicked animal. "Fu-chan, wait!" Shibuki shouted, but it was too late. He sighed. "I hope this doesn't keep her away." "Who was that?" Jiraiya asked since he never knew Shibuki had any kids. "Her name's Fu, no family name. She's an orphan and sort of the village urchin. Nobody wants to adopt her because of the social stigma that would come from it, but some people, myself included, do leave out food and supplies for her. They usually do it in secret so they don't become social outcasts themselves." "Why would that?" Jiraiya started to ask, but then answered his own question with wide eyes. "She's a Jinchuriki, isn't she? You never cease to amaze me, Jiraiya-san." Shibuki answered. "Yeah, she's the container of the Shichibi no Kabutomushi. I never told you before for her security, but there's no helping it now." "How? Is she treated regularly?" The Toad Sannin almost sounded afraid to ask. Shibuki sighed again. "Not well. No one goes out of their way to kill her, but no one really goes out of their way to make her feel welcome either. Kids and adults ignore her, refuse to talk or interact with her, even help her learn anything. It's like they're trying to ignore her to death, so she has to live like a stray cat, surviving off the few handouts from those that are afraid to do more. I'd do more, but with my responsibilities I can't give her the attention she needs." Jiraiya didn't know if he wanted to cry or vomit. But before he could ask more on the subject or bring up the matter of Odo, someone began barging on the door to the hut. And since the silencing barrier was one way, they could hear everything. "Shibuki-sama, terrible news. Some intruders have arrived and killed the guards at the waterfall." Jiraiya frowned. "Someone must have seen me. Damn it." He looked at Shibuki, who was starting to shake in fear. "I'll go take care of this. You just make sure everyone here is unharmed," he said before going outside. People were running into their houses trying to get away from some flames and moving water, implying some jutsus being involved. In the center of the chaos he saw 2 black-clad shinobi wearing no Hitai Atesh trying to stir up trouble. Neither one looked like they were enjoying themselves though. In fact, their facial expressions, or lack thereof, almost looked painted on. There's gotta be more to this than just causing mayhem. Maybe they're making a scene to distract us from someone else looking for something. Jiraiya quickly thought, with his years of experience helping him plan. He created a few shadow clones and had them spread out to confirm his theory while he handled the obvious threat. It wasn't that hard once he created 2 Rasengans to send both targets flying into some rocks hard enough to crack them. The shadow clones came back with a 3rd unconscious intruder. "I've got a badass idea on how to get them to talk." When the intruders woke up, they saw they were tied together and hanging over a pot of boiling oil. Jiraiya was standing next to it along with a giant toad he summoned to get the oil he heated up personally. A few inhabitants of Taki formed a crowd to see what was going on. Why don't you tell me what you were up to, or would you rather take a bath? We'll never tell you anything. One of the tied-up men replied. The toad was holding the end of the rope and let them be lowered a little closer to the oil. Close enough that they instinctively curled their toes to avoid being burned. Still say never? Jiraiya asked. Yes. The rope lowered them a little more, so now they had to curl their legs up. How about now? We can't tell you. Our master has forbidden it and gone to great lengths to ensure we never reveal our secrets. One of the trio told him before showing his tongue and the seal placed on it. So it's impossible for them to crack I think it's too much of a coincidence that they showed up after me, meaning they must have been trailing me. Or maybe it is just a coincidence and they're after something in Taki. Their attack pattern tells me they were more interested in finding something than drawing me out, and they weren't even prepared to fight me. If they had been trailing me, they would have had some way to counter me if I noticed and fought back. So maybe they really are after something here in Taki. Since you can't speak, I have no more use for you. Jiraiya stated before letting them drop all the way into the oil and scream in pain. If I was Ibiki, I might have handled that better, but I'm not. They weren't taken out until the screams stopped. So now that that's been taken care of, what was it you came here for again, Jiraiya-san? Shibuki asked once they were back inside his house and the intruder's dead body burns to ashes. What I'm about to say can't be repeated to anyone in Konoha ever, understand? Shibuki looked confused and then shook his head. No, not really. Aren't you from Konoha? Yeah, but I've been asked to make you an offer, and part of the deal is that no matter what your answer is, Konoha can't hear about it, or the deal's off and you may gain a new enemy. Shibuki gulped, not eager at all to gain enemies. Okay, this will be just between us. I'm listening. Okay, a new village has been created and is looking to ally itself with Taki. I know the leader of it personally. Since they're close to you, it would be in your interest to consider it a nearby ally that can respond quickly. I like it, but is it enemies with Konoha? If the two villages were forced to fight one another, what would this new one expect of us since we have a peaceful standing with Konoha? Shibuki asked, trying to avoid putting his village in a conflicted situation. If it came to that, you could declare yourselves neutral. Or you could support whichever side you feel has the better case. Whatever the case, if you accept, you'll gain a nearby partner in combat and trade. Jiraiya's eyes slowly turned to look outside. And also, I'm positive that little green-haired girl can gain some good friends. You can help Fu-chan. How? Let's just say this new village is a good place for people like her. And I know this for an undeniable fact. Shibuki arched an eyebrow. This new village has a Jinkujiriki of its own. Jiraiya nodded. And it's allied with two of the major ninja villages. Shibuki closed his eyes and went over the facts in his head. After a minute, he opened his eyes and answered. Very well, Jiraiya-san. You've never steered me wrong before, and I have no reason to doubt you now. Tell the leader of this particular village that Taki will consider them an ally. But there are two things I'd like you to do for me. Okay, shoot. First, what's the name of this village, and how old is its Jinchuriki? Shibuki asked. Otogakure, and 6. 6, huh? Well, that's good. For the second thing, I want you to have Fu-chan spend some time with them. Hopefully that will be what it takes to get her to open up people and learn to socialize. Like with Gaara Jiraiya thought. Okay, but for how long? As long as it takes. The day had finally come that the three Sannin were waiting for. It was Naruto's 9th birthday, and the day he acquired 9 different Kekkei Genkei from the Kyuubi. They had told him and his friends about this on his 8th birthday so he could spend a year thinking of some ideas. Of course the Sannin had some of their own, but since he ultimately was the decider, he needed to observe several to get a good idea of how they worked and how to be creative with them. For the past year Naruto studied Kekkei Genkeis of all sort, in books or by talking with the inhabitants of Odo personally. Most were willing to share some info with him since they knew he was close to all 3 Sannin and they owed their lives to the trio that got them out of Kiri. Naruto learned that every one of the known bloodlines had some strengths and weaknesses and limits, so he knew he had to keep all that in mind. There was no perfect bloodline, just handy ones. For this day, a few had gathered to see this interesting acquiring of power. Gaara, Temari, and Kankuro came from Suna, all aware of Naruto's Jinchuriki status. Fu came as well, although for all basic purposes the girl practically lived in Odo by now. Very little had changed about her social status in Taki even when she went back, so Shibuki let her have a semi-permanent home in Odo too as long as she came back from time to time. By the time she became genin she would have to declare one village a full-time home and the council in Taki was looking to force her to decide in their favor. If only to keep their Jinchuriki in check. Everyone who resided in the Odo Tower came to see this as well. Even a few who didn't reside there wanted to see. Two of Odo's Chunin guards Kimimaro and Tayuya attended while the rest stayed at their posts. These two guards were Naruto's favorites and the ones he spent the most time with. Since Odo had yet to participate in any actual Chunin exams they were only ranked Chunin because Orochimaru saw fit to give them that rank. Another one of his friends Haku showed up, along with her mother and stepfather, since he got to know her when he asked about her clan's Kekkei Genkai. He also found out that she and her mother were the last remaining users of it, since her biological father turned them all into the Mizukage for a profit. Or he could have just killed them for fun. Naruto felt bad for her and has been her good friend ever since. Everyone had gathered in one of the large underground rooms with Naruto in the center. They were giving him some space in case the Kyuubi's chakra acted up. You ready for this, Naruto? Jiraiya asked. Yes, Orochimaru. You sure this will work? Naruto asked, since the initial plan was for him to just try and contact the Kyuubi on his own. Even tough he had yet to do that so far. Not entirely, but it's worth a shot. Great advice, Jiraiya. Tsunade sarcastically mumbled. You're such an inspiration. Naruto sighed and closed his eyes. Here goes nothing. Wish me luck. He heard them all whisper it, then nothing. After a bit it was too quiet. Something must be wrong. He opened his eyes, but saw a large cage instead of the room he was supposed to be in. Two red eyes appeared from behind the bars of the cage. Ah, so it's finally that time. Good. You're the Kyuubi, right? Naruto asked, not that afraid since he had been prepared for this. Indeed. And you must know why you're here. Yep. I've been waiting for this day for about a year. Naruto answered. And I won't end up like Fu-chan did. As the Jinchuriki for the Shichibi, Fu should have received 7 Kekkei Genkais on her 7th birthday. However, she didn't know about this until that exact date and didn't get in touch with the Shichibi in time to do all that. She did at least have enough time to bargain for 1 Kekkei Genkai, and that was enough to ensure the Shichibi wouldn't die with her, but she still felt cheated. At least like with Gaara, who also only had 1, she didn't have to worry about the time limits Naruto would have to. And with only 1 rather than 7, Taki couldn't force her to breed with multiple men later on. It looked like the large fox was grinning. I've been waiting quite a while longer. So let's make a deal, shall we? 9 Kekkei Genkais in exchange for me being able to leave your body safely when you finally do die. Sure, it means I'll have a long wait ahead of me, but it's so much better than dying with him. Sounds good to me. And I've already got all 9 chosen. Then tell me about them one at a time and I can make the changes happen. And the more detail the better. Kyuubi told him. Wonder how that mark will factor in, if at all. Okay then, here's the first one. Everyone watching Naruto mediate waited for a while and then tensed up when they saw a faint red glow around his body. Their initial impulse was to snap him out of it, but a sense of calm remained in the air and on Naruto's face, averting their concern. The glow remained for 9 minutes even, and the only sign of discomfort was a brief look of pain on the young boy's face for about half a minute. Once the glow faded, Naruto opened his eyes. I think that's it. Do you feel any different? Hinata asked with much concern. Not really, except for this weird itch on my shoulder. Naruto answered as he scratched where his curse mark was. Do I look any different? Everyone shook their head negatively. Hey Orochimaru, can you take a look at this? The fox said the mark might be gone now. Everyone in the room familiar with the curse mark perked up at hearing this. For years the Sannin were trying to get a better understanding of it and a cure for it. So far no such luck, Although with a few notes they salvaged from the creator Amachi, they did at least learn the source was the blood of a young boy named Jugo. He had no known family, but he had a Kekkei Genkei that made him shapeshift into a more feral form when he was aggravated to fight, which he didn't enjoy. Jugo was currently contained in a holding cell to ensure he did no harm, which he preferred. But even with him contained, they were still no closer to finding a way to be rid of the mark. Jiraiya went up to the young boy and checked his shoulder. It's gone, he gasped. But how? Naruto shrugged. Dunno. The fox said something about his own power overpowering it when he made the changes. Can it do the same for us? Kurenai asked. Most likely not. Tsunade gently answered. Remember, Naruto's system is used to the Kyuubi's chakra, so he can use it without being too hurt, but you probably wouldn't be able to handle it. Also, I'm getting the impression that it wasn't an intended effect, so we still wouldn't know what to do even if it was safe. Kurenai sighed in resignation while Anko ignored the issue. So tell us, Otuto, which ones did you get? No one knew which Kekkei Genkeis the blonde was going to select. Some goods ones. Even the fox was impressed at most of them. Orochimaru grinned. Why don't you show us instead of tell us? He then created a shadow clone to serve as the boy's test dummy. Okay then, here's number 1. Naruto stated as he got up to his feet. He closed his eyes, then everyone saw veins bulge around them, making 3 girls in the room drop their jaws. When he opened his eyes, everyone saw they were white like the Byakugan, but the small visible pupil was shaped like a 4-point star if one looked close enough. I call this one the Neo Byakugan. How's it different than our own? Hitomi asked. I can't see as far as you can, but I can see in sharper detail, and I can see more of a person's insides than just their chakra network. Tsunade looked impressed. Interesting. Perfect eyes for a surgeon or someone looking to use pressure points. Any descendants who inherit those eyes would make great tracker and medic shinobi. Number 2. Naruto said before closing his eyes again. The veins receded, and when he reopened, his eyes were bright orange and had 2 tomos in them, spinning in a counterclockwise direction. Neo Sharingan. Orochimaru's grin widened. Our own version of the Sharingan. Not bad, but how is this one different? Well, instead of hypnotizing other people or casting genjutsus, I can break hypnotism and other genjutsus with this. And I don't have to kill someone important to upgrade them, instead I have to save a precious life, not end one. Kyuubi seemed really insistent on things like this, saying he had personal issues with the normal Sharingan. But other than that, it should be the same. One thing he didn't know was that with the Kyuubi's chakra in him, he wouldn't have to worry about going blind later. So Oto will be able to have an Uchiha-like family, but with more incentives to help others. Nice. Jiraiya thought with a light grin. Naruto returned his eyes to normal. Number 3. No one noticed any physical changes, but he did 3 quick hand signs and Orochimaru's clone got frozen solid. Hyoten. But I couldn't think of anything different, so I kept it the same as Haku-chan's. I figured we could use more ice wielders. Thank you for the consideration, Naruto-kun. Haku's mother told him. Orochimaru dispelled his clone and the ice around it shattered on the ground before he made another one. Go on, Naruto. Okay. Here's number 4. He made a few more hand signs and Orochimaru's clone became entangled in tree roots. I went with the Mokuden but made it so girls can use it too. Now Ba-chan doesn't have to worry about it dying out. Tsunade smiled warmly at the boy. Even though Yamato had already proven he could use the Mokuden, they always feared he couldn't pass it down to his descendants since it wasn't naturally his. Orochimaru got rid of this clone and Jiraiya got rid of the roots with a small fire jutsu. A new clone was made and Naruto was ready to show off his 5th Kekkei Genkei. He made some hand signs, and the next thing anyone saw was Orochimaru's clone being skewered by several large needles sticking out of the ground. Tetsuden, because few people have ever encountered the metal sub-element and it's a great way to make weapons for myself and my allies. A new clone was made and the metal spikes were taken away to be given to a smith shop for forging. Naruto got ready to show off his 6th gift. That's the last of the elemental stuff. Number 6 starts off a list of a few new things. He did a few hand signs and then Orochimaru's clone started levitating in the air. Everyone looked in awe, and then it fell to the ground and looked like it was being crushed by a rock. When it dispelled, Orochimaru's memories showed a sense of immense weightlessness and then too much weight. Naruto, what was that? Gravity control. Basically, I can make things or people weigh less or more, and if I do it the right way, I can even make myself or others fly, but I'm in complete control. Handy for moving things around, and helpful in battle if the enemy is unbalanced or too heavy to move. Naruto explained. Wow, how practical. Good one. Tamari answered, especially loving the flying part since she was trying to work on using wind that way. Can someone fill in for me here? Orochimaru asked. Don't want to use too much chakra. He may be a Sannin, but even he didn't have the chakra amounts to repetitively use the clone jutsu. Sure, Jiraiya said before making his own clone. Do your worst, kid. Okay. Number 7 is like this. The color on his body seemed to pale, not as much as the snake Sannin, and his hair went white like it had been bleached. For this one, I need your clone to hit me. What? Everyone asked, not expecting that. Just try to hit me. You'll understand then. And make it a good one. Oh. 'Kay then. Jiraiya's clone said before balling up a fist and aiming it for the 9-year-old, even though he wasn't trying to hurt him. He aimed for the shoulder and the impact should have been no more harmful than a spanking. But instead of making a connection, the clone's fist actually went through the boy's shoulder, like he wasn't really there. The surprise and sudden off-balance made the duplicate Toad Sage fall face-first on the ground, again passing through Naruto's body. Everyone looked at Naruto like they had just seen a ghost, making him smile. Ghost body. Makes everything go through me and lets me walk through walls. He then suddenly vanished into thin air. And I can become invisible too. Great for close-up spying and wearing the opponent out or scaring them. Wait, Naruto, get visible again and try and hit Jiraiya. Tsunade told him. He did just that, but his fist went right through the clone's body too. Guess the one drawback is you can't fight back. Not unless I become solid again. Naruto said before he became tangible and blonde again. Okay, for the 8-1, I need Hinata-chan and Haku-chan to come here instead. Why? Both girls' mothers asked, not that they believed he'd really hurt them. Let's just say none of the Sannin are exactly good testers for this one. Hinata-chan and Haku-chan are perfect. The boy answered. Without waiting for their mother's approval, both aforementioned girls walked up to him with kind grins. Both trusted the boy with their lives and showed no amount of fear. What do you want us to do, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked. Naruto suddenly gained red rings around his eyes much like Gaara had. Try and use your own Kekkei Genkai to attack me. The two girls shared a look before giving him an, if you insist, look. Hinata used the hand signs needed to activate the Byakugan when the user was still young and inexperienced, while Haku tried a short set to create some ice Senbon. The two finished at the same time, but nothing happened. What the heck? Haku asked herself before trying again, only to get the same results. What did you just do? Number 8, Unbloodline. Naruto answered. Anyone within 10 meters of me who has a Kekkei Genkai becomes unable to use it. The red around my eyes is there to alert my allies if they have one so they can get some distance. Not bad, considering how most ninja who have a Kekkei Genkai become dependent on it for their fighting style. Good way to handicap some of your opponents. Jiraiya thought out loud, and even if his enemy doesn't have a Kekkei Genkai, he has several others to use. For my last one, I'd like Ba-chan personally to step up and test this out. Naruto said as the red around his eyes faded. Trust me on this one, Ba-chan. I think you more than anyone else will appreciate this one. When he finished, he gained 2 thin black streaks down his face under his eyes much like Jiraiya. Hinata and Haku stepped out of the way while Tsunade stepped towards him, wondering what would happen to her that he didn't want demonstrated on a clone. She kept a cautious eye on him as he stepped forward and quickly poked her hand. What the hell was that ab? She started to ask before she felt a light tickle spread over her body and she started feeling more rejuvenated for some reason. But she got worried once she saw she was actually getting shorter. What did you just do to me? Her voice sounded different now, and when she looked around the room, she saw everyone had wide eyes but only her teammates had dropped jaws. Anyone got a mirror? Naruto asked. No one did, but Haku's mother was able to make one out of ice and showed Tsunade her reflection. Now her eyes went wide and her jaw dropped. She looked exactly like she did when she was a genin, down to the last detail, even bust size, with her clothes practically hanging off her since they didn't change. What did you just do? The ninth Kekkei Genkei, age control. All I have to do is touch someone, and I can make them as old as I want or as young as I want. And it doesn't wear off. You'll stay like that until I make you get older or you simply grow older naturally. Perfect for disabling opponents if they're too young or old to fight back the way they're used to, or help out our own guys by making them the right age to fight. Naruto explained. I won't have to wear a henge all the time anymore. That's great. Tsunade thought to herself. I won't have to die of old age someday. Terrific. Orochimaru thought to himself. Maybe if he makes me younger I'll be more appealing to the ladies. Jiraiya thought to himself. Hey Naruto, can you make me older again? How about 29? Tsunade asked. Sure. Naruto said before touching her hand and making her become a 29-year-old woman again. Jisen, Aro Jichin, you guys wanna become younger again? Heck yeah. Both answered together for different reasons. By the end of the day all three Sannin were back in their prime and Odo had its secret weapon, waiting to become an official shinobi. Congratulations, you are now all officially genin of Odogakur. And with the recent changes made by Otokage-sama, you are possibly the first generation of Odo shinobi to be able to make a name for yourselves in our village. The Chunin instructor at the academy told the small classroom filled with a few Hittite wearing teens. The symbol on each plate was a musical note.